Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking some absolutely fascinating insights from behavioral science and Japanese culture. We're looking at how to get children to listen without raising your voice. If you've ever felt like you're talking to a literal brick wall when asking your kids to do simple tasks, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to explore a completely different approach that shifts the whole dynamic from conflict straight into cooperation. Let's dive right in with a question that I know is going to resonate with pretty much every parent out there. How many times have you had to repeat instructions today? Just think about your morning routine, or maybe that chaotic hour right before bedtime. You know the drill. It usually starts with a rapid-fire sequence of familiar reminders. Put your shoes away, finish your homework, turn off the TV, come to the table. And what actually happens? Well, after all that repeating, a lot of children still just don't listen. It's a daily cycle, and it's incredibly predictable. The kids ignore the requests, the parents' frustration naturally starts bubbling up, and inevitably the volume goes up. The arguments start, and by the end of the day, this whole cycle leads to one universal destination for absolutely everyone involved, and that is pure, unadulterated exhaustion. Section 1. Obedience versus ownership. Reframing the listening problem. So what if the core issue isn't actually that children won't listen, but rather how we're asking them? In Japan, a lot of parents start with a completely different assumption, completely moving away from the idea of immediate obedience. To get why this makes sense, I want you to imagine a micromanaging boss walking up to your desk every 10 minutes telling you exactly what to do. Even if their instructions are completely reasonable, after a while, you'd be incredibly annoyed, and not because the tasks are hard, but because nobody, and I mean nobody, enjoys feeling controlled. Psychologists actually have a specific name for this. It's called psychological reactance. It's basically our innate tendency to push back whenever we feel like our freedom is being restricted. The harder someone pushes you to do something, the more you naturally just want to pull away. Well, children aren't any different. The more they feel pushed and commanded around, the more they naturally resist. And this brings us to a massive shift in parenting goals. Instead of barking commands like clean your room right now just to get that immediate obedience, Japanese parents often focus on integrating tasks into daily life. They involve the child in routines that make things like cleaning just feel like a normal, everyday part of life. The ultimate goal here is ownership. Because when a child feels true ownership over a task, getting them to cooperate becomes so much easier. Section 2. The Art of Mimamoru. The power of stepping back. Now, this brings us to the real secret engine behind why this cultural approach actually works in practice. It's called Mimamoru. Roughly translated, it means to watch and support. Now, I know, to Western ears, that might sound a little too passive. We often feel this intense need to be highly active parents, directing every single move our kids make. But Mimamoru is definitely not about ignoring your kids. It's actually a highly intentional, very deliberate strategy of holding back. The absolute core of this philosophy is a crucial 3-step process. First, when a child faces a challenge, the parent's job is simply to observe, just watch. Second, they offer support, but only if it's genuinely needed. And step 3, well, this is the kicker. They only actively intervene and solve the problem for the child as an absolute last resort. Let's put this into perspective. Imagine a child forgets their school notebook. A lot of parents will instinctively jump right in and fix it, rushing over to the school to drop it off. The intention is completely good. But over time, the child becomes totally dependent on you to fix their mistakes. Mimamoru says, let the child experience the consequences. Giving them the opportunity to actually notice the missing notebook, think about it, and figure it out themselves helps them learn. Because at the end of the day, responsibility is one of the single biggest predictors of a cooperative child. Section 3. Participation over punishment. Building responsibilities gradually. Of course, a hands-off approach like this really requires some groundwork, turning those potential daily battlegrounds into opportunities for participation. In a lot of Japanese families, expectations begin at a very young age with small, totally manageable responsibilities. We're talking about really simple things: putting shoes away neatly at the door, organizing their own school items, helping set the dinner table, or just tidying up shared spaces. But here is the absolutely critical distinction. It's all about the framing. These tasks aren't viewed as chores. They aren't punishments for bad behavior. They're framed as family participation. The child isn't being ordered around by some dictator. They are actively contributing to the household. And this completely transforms the way a child views their home. It becomes our responsibility, rather than just someone else's job. And this whole concept of participation is heavily reinforced outside the home too, particularly in Japanese schools. It might seem pretty wild to outsiders, but students there actually clean their own classrooms, and they even serve lunch to one another. The main goal here isn't just to save money on janitors or keep the floor shiny. It's designed to develop a deeply ingrained ownership of their environment. When kids take responsibility for a space, they become highly aware of their role within it. All of this daily participation relies on one fundamental psychological truth. Habits are stronger than motivation. Motivation is super fleeting, right? It changes with a child's mood, how tired they are, or whatever else they'd rather be doing in that moment. Habits, on the other hand, are deeply wired right into the brain. Just think about your own morning for a second. Do you brush your teeth because someone is standing over you repeatedly yelling at you to do it? No! You do it because it's an automatic habit. Well, Japanese families rely on these consistent, daily routines to literally train the brain. When a behavior becomes normal and automatic, it dramatically reduces the need for those constant, loud verbal instructions. The friction just disappears. Section 4. Connection creates cooperation, the root of mutual respect. As we near the end of our explainer here, we really need to uncover the emotional foundation that makes all these routines and hands-off approaches actually stick. In the traditional Japanese framework we've been exploring, children are treated as valued participants. Their opinions genuinely matter. Their feelings are acknowledged, and their role within the family is deeply valued. And this is a really stark contrast to treating children like behavioral management projects that constantly need to be aggressively shaped, managed, and controlled at every single turn. The big takeaway here is pretty profound. When kids feel capable and when they feel respected, they become far more willing to listen in return. Listening is rarely a one-way street, and this really proves that the absolute strongest influence a parent has isn't fear, and it certainly isn't volume. It is a profound mutual connection. Ultimately, it all comes down to what we are actually trying to achieve. Yelling desperately tries to change what children do in the moment. It's a temporary, short-term fix for controlling behavior. But great parenting, utilizing concepts like Mimamoru, focuses on building character. One approach just changes what they do today, the other changes who they become for a lifetime. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to really ponder. What is one parenting habit from your childhood that taught you responsibility? Think back on what truly shaped you. Because as we've learned from our source material today, sometimes children don't actually need louder instructions. Sometimes they just need greater trust. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep fostering that connection.